Hi, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Welcome to my Startless Week in Review podcast. This is podcast number 121. Any articles or videos mentioned can be found on my website at intergalacticherald.com. Just look for News Recap 169. So just a quick update, a quick summary of things to talk about. Predominantly, the Atlas Brew occurred this last week, and lots of information was given. It was a Q&A follow-up to the town hall, so that was really great to get some additional information. And then Beyond the Horizon started a HoloSim walkthrough video series. He posted one, so that's why I got on this one. But as soon as I got done putting up the newsletter, or getting the newsletter together, he created a second one. So I'm just going to wait and talk about that next week. But he did start that, and the other one is available if you want to go check it out. But only one is in my news recap. So again, the Atlas Brew is the big one. Before we get to that, just a couple things about my projects in Startless. First, of course, is my Intergalactic Herald website. It's a great resource website. Got a lot of beginner's guide, outdated guilds, but it's still got some information. A bunch of directories for Star Atlas content creators and builders and tools and things like that. And recently, though I'm pretty much now into a regular rhythm of doing AI summary audio recaps of things like the Atlas Brew, so you can check that out. And I just wanted to announce I have one new thing I just put up a couple days ago. It is now what do we call it? It is the Star Atlas community. So the word is the Star Atlas Discord news feed. So in the Star Atlas Discord, the community team has a few channels that are announcements. So that could be, I think they call it announcements, minor announcements, and event announcements. Those are in Discord, which is great. However, if you're not checking Discord, you don't see the event, or you don't get the notification on the Discord app. So what I'm working on is through a API that the Star Atlas team made available to community builders, I am extracting those announcements. So I'm just calling them news. It's shorter to write, and putting them on my website. And so there is a place to go there. But you might say, hey, you could just go to Discord and look at them. True. The reason I'm putting them on my website is because I'm a website developer, designer, manager, whatever. And my goal is actually to take those posts and turn them into emails. So you'll actually be able to get an email sent to you. Got to have the data somewhere as a kind of in-between step. So this was the first step. So those all exist now. And then my next goal is to turn those into basically emails that will get sent out. So you can subscribe basically to get the to get the Star Atlas Discord news feed of the announcements sent to your email. So keep an eye out for that as I work through that. My other two projects are my Star Atlas merch store called Intergalactic Gear. You can go check that out at intergalacticgear.com. Open for business, selling a few mugs, some wall art, again, all over the map on which projects I'm working on. So putting a little more time back into my website. There's a merch survey there. I'd love to get any feedback. And then the last one is what I'm calling the Intergalactic Coalition. It is a community of Star Atlas gamers, or it wants to be. I hope it will be a community that don't want to join guilds, but nevertheless still want to hang out. So please check that out and fill out that interest survey. I already mentioned Beyond the Horizon put out his HoloSim walkthrough. Like I said, I'll touch base with that next week once he finishes that series. But the real big one was the Atlas Brew this past week. So again, if you'd like to get a recap of it, if you go to my website, go to recaps, you can find a AI audio summary of that. Also, if you subscribe to my podcast, which you're listening to right now, you already are getting it. It's coming through the feed there. They come out on Wednesday. I aim for Thursday night to get that published. Can't guarantee that, but definitely will go out by Friday. So in the Atlas Brew, the community team mentioned just some, noteworthy news. And the big one is Star Pass. If you've been around Star Atlas for a while, that Star Atlas has had a referral program where you can have a code, or I guess not a code, but a link, and you could both get a discount on ships you purchase, but also whoever's link you're using, they would get a thing. Started out with one program, and then they change it. Unfortunately, basically turned out to be a way to purchase for discounts because anybody could get a code, and so they just got their own code and back and forth between wallets. So the community team announced that will be ending in a couple weeks, and that they are going to be working on a new version of I'll just call it an affiliate program or a referral program. My term's not theirs. And that'll be coming out, but it will be by application. So I'm reading between the lines. It sounds like, again, the discount part of it was not what was the intended purpose of a referral program or affiliate program, and so they'll be working that. It may change. They say they may change the name too. So I guess if you have ever wanted to buy a ship and get a small discount, StarPath is a way to do that. But the big part of the Atlas Brew was a Q&A with, and one of these days I'm going to get better at writing down everybody's name, Brett, I hope, VP of Engineering. Yeah, I think I got that one right this time. I actually have a lot of VPs now I think about it, but it's whatever. The way it was structured is, let's see, one of the co-founders does game design, Chris does economy, and Brett does engineering. So everybody has the lanes they work in. So anyways, many times he mentioned that that's somebody else, and that's fine. But anyways, it was there. Starless TV has the whole Atlas Brew up. So if you want to listen to it in its entirety, great. I did the summary, but I didn't read it. So I hope the AI did pretty good job. Again, that's what it is. And can't guarantee it's accurate anyways. But here are some of the things that I wrote down that I thought was really intriguing that kind of builds on what we heard at the town hall, but gets more specific. Now, my only thought in hindsight was, since it was a Q&A, it wasn't a presentation, so it was more of the people that are in the Blue Room asking questions. So I was realizing I wouldn't say it's comprehensive or focused, but it's still more information. And it was pretty broad, so I guess that was good. So here are the things that I came up with that I'll pass along. One, this concept of regions. And I guess it sounds like the map... one thing I'm still not sure is, maybe I am, but I'm not. There's a lot still to comprehend. That regions are, I had a map up on the video. Should have looked at it closer, but it's an area, and I don't know how the area is defined. But I think it somehow relates to star bases, because that, again, is, if a star base is attacked or lost, then the region changes hands. Yeah, I think... area of influence? I'm not sure. Yeah, to be determined. Or need more information on that. However, that's just how you draw the line. The regions themselves have, I think they use the word border regions and safe regions. It sounds like border regions are two regions that touch between two opposing factions. And again, I'm pretty sure this is all faction versus faction. So a border is two factions touching. Behind the border regions are safe regions, but they could become border regions if the border goes away. So it definitely feels like a very dynamic map. And in fact, I just realized there's a board game. Oh man, from my childhood. I kind of sounds very familiar. Anyways, I think maybe the challenge, and I'm tempted to put a question in the foundation room, is we've been explaining this verbally, but this is a visual problem. Regions, maps. And again, maybe the team's not ready to introduce a map, but I think that would help a lot. An official map. Again, just even if it's not, or just a conceptual map, which I think again was on that part of the brew, but I was listening, not watching. So anyways, doesn't matter. Plus it was on my phone, so it was really small. But anyways, regions makes a lot of sense, even if I'm not 100% sure what I know. But as far as moving, changing their status from border to safe and things like that. But what I still am not sure is, I still think there's this safe zone, because I don't think that allows any combat. So this, I think, is in the medium risk zone. But anyways, again, that would make more sense. So anyways, but the region concept makes a lot of sense. And then the regions have statuses, for lack of a better term, maybe. The other thing that popped up in there that I wrote down was star bases could be lost. But then there was discussions about what's inside them, because somebody asked about local markets, and I glossed over that because, I just glossed over it. But definitely if a star base is lost to a faction, the things in it, something happens. And there was a lot of discussions about things being burned, which I think is equivalent to disappears. But then there are lots of thoughts that things will go back to the Central Space Station. Definitely I think we need more clarification. And again, I just realized they may still be designing things. Can change and might change. And I think what was mentioned again is there will be a 2-month or a multi-month beta where they could still fine-tune things. Again, this could all be not subject to change, but subject to refinement. But anyways, definitely the fact that things can be lost and there are consequences for that. So that makes a lot of sense. It was also mentioned repair is a new mechanism, and maybe I have a repair ship, so I'm like, oh, hey, cool, finally it could do something. And that was cool. And I think it's what repairs the star bases as they're being attacked. So I wondered if something could be attacking, but you could be repairing it. And so it's that who's doing more. But again, interesting dynamics and interesting engagement. The other one was mentioned was claim stakes. And I think I was more in tune to that. Like I've mentioned in the past, I always listen to this late on Friday. So at some point my brain is shutting down. And anyways, but I balance that off that none of this is set in stone. So until there's an official article or something, all this could change anyway. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to understand it all. But definitely getting more and more of understanding on the claim stakes. And apparently now they have the ability to have buildings on top of it. So one thing that was mentioned, because I do have a few mining drills and power plants, those are going to be converted to one or multiple new building types. And sounds like there could be types as in a lot, because again, it was mentioned like solar panels a couple times. Yeah, so there's definitely feels, again, I guess the only initial one is I still don't know if a claim stake is a thing. It's a thing, but I mean, it goes on to a planet and then does it do anything or until you put a building on it? And maybe it's just like, a lot of RTS games, you have the home thing and you put it someplace and then immediately it can do something. So maybe it's like there was this RTS called Supreme Commander, and you had a commander, and the commander could build the first building. So again, but maybe it can do something that claims stake. So maybe it is a physical object and not just a deed or a license to do something. So anyways, but there sounds like there are tons of options coming related to buildings. Wasn't exactly clear again if the buildings can be, or I guess it's that the claim stake has a tier, and it didn't sound like you could make the claim stake up or upgrade to a different tier, but maybe the buildings can be up to that level. So it definitely sounded like, and it goes back to the interview that Michael Wagner had with Virtual, probably many weeks of months, that there are a whole lot of combination possibilities with claim stakes. The reason why I'm more in tune to this is that feels like my style play. So I got my, let's see, what do I have? Claim stake tier 2, a few tier 1. So anyways, feels more like my style play anyways. Yeah. Then the other thing, a couple questions came about, one come about, combat. And apparently you can attack star bases, but not planets. And if I'm remembering, I think it was that claim stakes won't have defensive buildings. And if they're on a planet, I guess they can't be attacked. Cool, because I'm not interested in attack yet. But again, that's another subtlety on how combat's going to work. Maybe fleet-to-fleet combat and fleet-to starbase combat, I'm thinking. Which again goes back to the regions. But again, we'll, I'm sure, learn more when we see some maps. And then the other thing that popped out, I think this one was out of the blue, and maybe it came up in the town hall, but it starts making, I don't know, actually I think it makes a lot more sense. It was mentioning how crew will be required for claim stakes, buildings, and other things. So we've always had the thought of crew related to ships because we want to fly ships. But why wouldn't crew also be required for things? Oh, I guess we know a crew is for crafting. Oh, one thing that didn't come up, but again, it was question and answers. Nobody asked about crafting habs. And I was like, isn't that obviously where your crew is going to go? But anyways, it does sound like crew is going to work with claim stakes and the other buildings. And I'm like, oh, shoot, now you're going to have to buy more crew because I don't think you can make crew. This goes back to something a long time ago when I had Jose, the lore writer, do an interview. And he was mentioning how that really got me thinking, realizing that crew is how you should think about it, not with ships. And of course, we have the crew picture or the attributes, images, and stuff like that. So anyways, they did mention crew's still a number, but it does actually make a lot of sense, and not just from gameplay, that it would make sense that your building on your claim stake would need crew to run a power plant or a mining drill or whatever's coming, and then they require food to run it, and maybe the building requires one of these dozens and dozens of new resources. So it's, you have to supply. Again, I know we're hearing claim stakes, and maybe when we hear the building types, but I kind of thinking like an RTS game. Usually we're creating like factories and stuff like that, or at least barracks. And again, all those sounds like there could be reasons for it, but it did, anyways, babbling. But what came up was that these things would need crew. So obviously you would have to go and buy more crew because crew cannot be crafted. So one good thing from this, to me anyways, from the Star Atlas standpoint, is that is another revenue stream. If I want my building to work, I gotta go buy some crew. So I might be able to craft or build or whatever the term is, but I'd still have to put some crew in it. So now I gotta go out and buy crew. It makes sense from a gameplay style. I don't like the idea I have to go spend more money, but from a real world economic thing, that makes a lot of sense that you're going to have to get more crew. But one thought I just had is, could I take the crew? So to have a fleet, you have to have it crewed, but could your fleet be parked somewhere? Yeah, I don't know, somewhere. And then the crew could be sent down to your claim stake, and then you can be working down there. That feels right. I don't know. Think about the showroom. If your ship lands, you can leave the ship and the ship just sits there. It just doesn't do anything. Hopefully your ships could somehow dock with your claim stake. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, a lot of interesting ideas, but moving on to keep going forward. And then the last one was, and it kind of goes back to the repair thing, that it was mentioned that ship rolls are actually going to matter now. So repair, salvage was mentioned, and it sounded like what was described was maybe like just how every ship now can mine, but miners are better. So finally, salvage ships and repair ships will actually have some benefit, or more benefit than a normal ship. So anyways, so those are things I wrote down. There were other things. Again, these are just my things that fit what I was interested. So do check that out, Star Atlas TV. I did a recording, but if you go to my website, Dr. Harold, look for news recap number 169. There'll be a link for that. So anyways, moving on to my thoughts on the state of Star Atlas. Oh, I guess I did have one thought on the Hull Sim. So I wrote this last night. So last night I hadn't watched it. So I'm still on the fence about playing. I did get started, but I'll just, again, leave that to comments till next week. Really more about C4. There was definitely a lot of information presented last week or the previous town hall, and it was hard to comprehend everything. But I am thinking more and more that we can really say for sure that this C4 is truly immense. And I use that because there's 4 things, again, the combat, the claim stakes, the crafting habs, and the council rank. And it feels like more information has been shared about claim stakes and combat than crafting habs and council rank. So I'm not sure if they're all equal. It feels like combat and regions and things like that is massive. But again, these claim stakes are starting to sound pretty intense too. Yeah. Claim stakes, definitely see this as an entire gaming loop. Maybe you still need a ship to take. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on the building types. But assuming that the purpose of a claim stake is to extract resources from the planet, and maybe you can craft them, or maybe, again, you have to take them to your crafting hab. Anyways, you definitely see the supply chain really becoming a part of the game that wasn't there before. Not that mining didn't have a supply chain and scanning didn't have a supply chain, but the purpose has been things like the Golden Carnival tickets, the LP rewards, loyalty points, and then these faction infrastructure. Anyways, I don't want to sound whatever, but it was all like, that's made up. But what's the scope here? Again, just for a second, taking out combat, but just taking out combat as an action. If our ships can have configurations, if our claim stakes could have buildings, and those all need these expansion of totally different resources, and I guess it finally gives not a purpose, but I guess an in-game purpose. So if I'm not mistaken, both the loyalty points and the foundation, infrastructure contracts, a faction infrastructure, were to get Atlas, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly valid thing. It was always externally focused, but this would be like, hey, I want that, I don't know, solar panel, and I need these resources. So I'm going to mine or extract with my claim stake this resource, sell it on a market, and then take Atlas there and buy something to go back. And I don't know, this is really where now the economy, again, not that there hasn't been an economy, but the in-game economy has the loops, and that's I guess that's really just intriguing. And again, looking at how immense, because yeah, I guess in one sense you could say maybe I'll do all this to get Atlas to then go buy crew cards. I mean, that all within. Yeah, again, it's becoming quote unquote real. I personally am definitely curious on the building list. A couple of things have been mentioned, but yeah, and again, maybe they're not there yet, so that's totally fine. But the fact that there's not just the ones we've always had, the mining drills, power plants, the space station, I guess that's it. So there's solar panels. Again, there's a couple things that come up. And then the regions, like I mentioned before, are really starting to make a lot of sense. I'm just not sure how you I'm not sure how you conquer them. But again, if the idea is the fleets or faction attacks the starbase and somehow wins, loss, whatever, and that gains you that region, and then you can do that. Yeah, I think we just need more information about territorial conquest. But given that was one of the big selling points of the game initially, all makes sense. So to summarize my State of Star Atlas things was, this is really starting to sound like a full game. And I don't mean that to diminish what we currently have, but it's like, I don't know, it's like almost fulfilling kind of some of those original not promises, but original visions, because this thing called a claim stake just existed and even ships existed, but now it's be like there. But the one thing that really does feel like it's coming true, and Michael Ignacio has been mentioning this a lot, or has always mentioned this, that we got to get to the point where not everything can be done by one person. And like I was mentioning about the claim stakes and selling, because you need something else. And maybe it just needed complexity to finally see this, where somebody can't basically do it all. Because again, I've been mentioning on my journey, without buying more ships, I really want a mining fleet and a transport fleet, and yeah, and then the whole Solana transactions, which actually, quick side, that needs to get fixed. Not fixed, but just if every time on your claim stake is a Solana transaction and it's multiple things, yeah, that's going to start really sinking the ability to, yeah. Anyways, we'll see. I know there's a whole bunch of talk about the Solana transactions and blockchains and other network, or yeah, all that stuff. But again, it's not out yet. But anyways, that would be really, the number of transactions greatly increase, and you're putting to do that. That's getting ahead of it. We don't have anything out yet. And again, this may be part of that other network they were talking about. So anyway, so yeah, I think again, the more I hear now, it feels a little better of comprehending. There's still, I think, a lot of questions, but again, I don't feel like the team is necessarily announcing a full rollout, but they're at least bringing us along. And again, it might have just been that the town hall was too overwhelming with, again, 3 different things, and this Atlas Brew just focus on questions and answers about C4 was great. So anyways, so my journey, again, still working on that Mamba X. Hopefully nothing comes out and I can finish that, but got my big fleet out mining diamond. It then ran out of ammo, so I turned it back into a transport fleet. I transported the remaining ammo I had back at the Central Space Station, and just before starting this podcast, it had run out again. So what did I think I'm going to do after this? Oh, I'm going to go back to mining, let it run through the ammo, and then we'll see where I'm at on the total number, and then I may just put it back to be total transport and bring all that diamond back and try to get ahead and just let the little mining ship do its thing, because it just needs some food and there. I am also finding a bottleneck that my claim stakes aren't keeping up with making ammo, so I hadn't even understood how you make ammo, but apparently you got to get copper, and I don't know what Starbase copper's at. So I'm feeling like this may be one of those things that let the miner do its thing, because again, I don't need ammo. Food seems to be a smaller component for mining than ammo, at least on the big fleet. I could be wrong on that. And fuel, I can always remine more hydrogen at the Central Space Station and keep that fleet going, but this is the farthest distance I have to travel to any of the resources. Sooner I can get the diamond back, then I can move closer, and then the fuel's less and the time's less, and yeah, we'll see. But now I'm starting to wonder if ammo is going to be a bottleneck. But yeah, one problem at a time. And right now, it's just taking advantage or new strategy, which is go to the farthest things you need and bring all that stuff back. So anyways, yeah, so that's where I'm at on that. So I'll go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Always open to any podcast guests. They can be other content creators, Star Atlas builders, content creators, anyone. Yeah, it's my long-term goal. Haven't done too many guests, but still there. Do check out my website, Intergalactic Herald, for more Star Atlas resources, beginner's guides, directories, guild, of course, the IEI recaps now, and soon to be, or they're already there, the Star Atlas Discord news feed. If you need a mug or want to give me some information about other things you might want to buy, please go to intergalacticgear.com. And if you'd like to hang out with other Star Atlas gamers who aren't going to be joining guilds, do want to create a community called Intergalactic Coalition, you can go to that website and fill out an interest survey. So thanks again for listening to whatever I thought was cool to talk about with Star Atlas. This is Matt with Intergalactic Herald. Have a great week ahead.